AR, AP, bank accounting, and fixed assets. Similarly, if you are coming from the logistics background, you will go to logistics. You will be able to see your modules here, like materials management, sales and distribution. So if you go to materials management, these are the submodules: purchasing, inventory management, physical inventory, valuation, MRP. These are some of the submodules within materials management. Same way, if you go to sales and distribution, you'd be able to see sales, shipping, billing, credit management. So these are some of the modules within sales and distribution.
So Vikram, this GUI and this launchpad, this is applicable only for on-premise, right? It's not for cloud system. We don't need this, all right?
Right. So if you are using on-premise system, in that case only you have the option to use this old GUI. New GUI, which we are talking about Fiori, is the only way to connect to cloud. For cloud, you will not be getting this access. For cloud, you would not be able to access through this. This is also called as GUI. So old GUI is not applicable for cloud customers. Customers who are going for SAP S4HANA Cloud, they will not be using this old GUI. They will be only using Fiori. You're right.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so if you are using SAP on-premise system, then you will be able to see this old GUI where you'll be able to see all your transactions here. So this is a screen which is normally used by the SAP end users. They will be using this screen to perform all their transactions. But as a consultant, most of the activities you will be doing using transaction SPRO. Okay, SPRO is a transaction which you will be using to set up the system, to configure the system. Okay, again in SPRO, you'll be able to see financial accounting, you'll be able to see materials management, sales and distribution. So all the modules which are available to the end user can be configured from SPRO screen. It is also called as implementation guide. IMG is nothing but implementation guide. Okay, so this is one way of using the GUI. This is one way of the presentation server. So you can do the transactions using these older screens. These screens are almost same from last 30 years. Okay, so for example, even SAP provided transaction codes. Just for example, what are transaction codes now? So if I want to create a purchase order, what I can do is I can go to logistics, materials management, purchasing, purchase order, create, and then I'll be able to create a purchase order. So every time if I want to create a purchase order, I have to go to this path. What I can do two, three things here. Number one, I can right click here and say add to favorites. Okay, what this will do, you can see these are my favorites folder. It will bring that ME21 and transaction to create a purchase order in my favorites. So this is uh, one way of making sure that you don't need to go to these details. So this is one kind of shortcut to have whatever things you want to do on day-to-day basis, you can add to the favorites. Second way is if you remember the transaction code. So for example, the transaction code for this activity is ME21N. So if you come here and enter your transaction code ME21N and press enter, system will automatically take you to that particular screen. So almost each and every activity that you do, okay, if you go to accounting, within general ledger accounting, document entry, again you can see there is a transaction code and then there is a name of this activity. So if I want to enter the GL account document, I can use transaction FB50. So again, if I want to avoid all these things, I can right click, I can add to favorites, or if I remember the transaction code, I can directly go to FB50. Okay, so it is opening enter GL account document. Right, so these are the different ways in which you can access or these are the different ways in which you can do the transactions in SAP using the old GUI. So in old GUI, you can add the things into your favorites, or you can remember the transaction codes. Okay, sometimes maybe whenever you log in, you may not be able to see these transaction codes at all. The reason is from extras, I think technical settings, no, settings, extras, settings, you can see this box should be ticked, display technical names. If I untick this, okay, now if you try to open any application, general ledger, document entry, you can see the transaction code is not appearing. Okay, so it is very important that if you want to remember the transaction codes, initially for few months till the time you don't get yourself comfortable with the transaction codes, you should go to extras, okay, in settings, and tick on this indicator, display the technical names. Okay, so now if you again go back, accounting, financial accounting, general ledger, document entry, you can see the transaction codes are again back. Okay, so this is how you can bring the transaction codes if they are not by default available in your system. Okay, so this is the one way. Just now I shown you two different things. Maybe let me show you one more thing from the sales point of view. So let's assume I want to create a sales order. I will go to logistics. Within logistics, I will open the sales and distribution. And within sales and distribution, I will go to sales. You can see I can create an inquiry, I can create a quotation, and I can create a sales order. So if I open the order, you can see VA01 is a transaction code to create a sales order. Okay, so this is the older way of performing the transactions in SAP. Older means this was normally done in SAP ECC. Although in S4HANA, SAP came up with the new GUI, which is FIORI, but even today also 80% or more than 80 to 85% of the customers are still using these screens. So the question is, what should you learn? Going forward, maybe after 5 years from today, nobody would be using this old screens. Everybody would be using FIORI. But today, if you see the current market, in current market, you have to understand both. Okay, so if you just understand FIORI, and if a customer is not using FIORI, you need to understand how GUI works. Same way, if you just understand FIORI and your customer is not ready to use FIORI as of today, then you need to understand this. So both are important. If you understand this, if your customer is using FIORI, then that is also not sufficient. So we have to understand both. We have to understand the old GUI as well as the new GUI. Okay, so what we will do is process will remain same. Presentation can be, just for example, if you want to book a ticket, you can do it from your mobile device, or you can do it from your IRCTC website. You can do it from the app, or you can do it from the website. Ultimately, process will not change. Okay, it is just a difference in the screen. So what we need to do is, first thing, we have to complete end-to-end process using this old GUI. Once we complete the end-to-end process, there will be 1 or 2 sessions where we will try to do the same process using FIORI, so that you are also comfortable that how to do the transactions using FIORI screens, right? But ultimately, at the end, we should know how to do the transaction from the old GUI, and we should also know how to do the transactions from FIORI. Okay, so these are the old screens. If I just show you ME21N to create a purchase order, you can see this, how this old screen looks like. If I give this to you, okay, just assume you don't know anything about SAP, or you just joined as an end user, and if I tell you this is a screen, go and create a purchase order. All right, it is not very easy to understand. You can see how many tabs, you can see how many fields. It is very difficult. So to provide the training to the end user also is a very difficult task if I'm using old GUI. Okay, but if you see what SAP came up with now in terms of new GUI, you will find it is simple to use, Number two, let's assume you are a consultant or you are an end user and you are at your home, you got a call from your management that we need to create a purchase order immediately. Okay, let's assume you don't have the company laptop. Normally you use a desktop in your company. So what you need to do, if you get a call and you want to create a purchase order, first of all, the question is, do you have this SAP logon pad in your system, in your home system? I mean, normally not. Normally, we don't install all these applications and we don't connect. Even some of the companies will even not allow you to connect from home, right? So if you double click also, it will say connection not possible. So the question is, how will you do the transaction? So important thing is, if you are using old GUI, first of all, you need to install this software, SAP Logon software. Okay, then you need to connect to the system. But if you are using Fiori, there is no need to download anything in your system. Okay, there is no need to install anything in your system. It is just a web link. Okay, if you just go to Google Chrome or any other web browser, you can see this. For example, this is Logon, which is under my favorites. So this is a link. This is a web link. If I give you this web link, you can access it from anywhere. You just need to provide your user ID. You need to provide your password. You don't need a company laptop. You don't need anything to be installed. Only thing is, this should be allowed by your company. So we are not saying this is not secured. This is also secured. If your company is not allowing you to access this link, then even you will not be able to access it from your other laptop also, right? But you don't need to install at least this software. No software needs to be installed. You just need this link and you can come here and you can enter your user ID, password, language, and click on log on. Clear? Any questions?
So Vikram, is complete SPRO is available on Fiori?
No, I'll come to that, Deepak. Just give me
Okay.
a few minutes, I'll talk about that. So as of now, this Fiori is only available for end users. As a consultant, we may need to do some activities which are not available on Fiori. So we have to, SPRO is still available for the consultants. Most of the time, consultants will spend on SPRO itself. There are few activities which are available for consultants also on Fiori, but still most of the activities are still supported from SPRO itself. So as a consultant, see, when we are talking about Fiori, we should not, consultants are just doing the setup. They are not actually using the business system, right? When SAP wants to improve something, they don't want to improve how the consultants will work. They want to improve how the company will be benefited, how the end users will be benefited, right? So the first target is to improvise the user interface for the end users. But yes, some of the activities which we were doing through SPRO, those also can be done using Fiori. Okay, so here the same user ID and password, what you are able to use in your old GUI, same user ID and password will work. Only thing is, you can see here, it is not asking us for client. If I go to the old GUI, whenever you double click, it asks you a client. Okay, it is asking you client, it is asking you user, it is asking you password, and it is asking you language. But here it is not asking you client. What could be the reason? The link that is provided to you by your basis and technical team, that itself has the client details. So if you have 2 or 3 different clients, there will be the separate link which will be provided by your basis team. Okay, so your basis team or technical team will provide you different links for different servers for different clients, and that is the reason there is no need to enter the client here. System already knows that which client you are trying to connect to by using this link itself. Okay, so once you enter your user ID and password,